Welcome to Dental Success Beyond Chairside, the podcast that is dedicated to revolutionising the way dental professionals succeed beyond the dental chair. Join us for a unique blend of insightful interviews with industry experts and valuable tidbits of information to help you thrive in your dental specialist practice. In each 20-minute episode, we'll delve into a variety of topics, including HR, marketing, innovative techniques and systems, and AI, to help you transform your practice and unlock its full potential. Whether you're a dentist, specialist, or oral health therapist looking to enhance your practice, this podcast is your go-to resource for professional, personal, and profitable success. Get ready to go beyond the dental chair and discover what lies ahead in your practice journey with Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Welcome to Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Did you know there are upcoming changes to the Health Professionals and Support Services Award, particularly around how dental assistants are classified and paid? These changes will impact your practice's costs and compliance. To help us make sense of it all, I've invited Kristy-Lee Billett, founder of People Powered Business, back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again, Kristy-Lee.
Thanks, Michelle, for having me. It's great to be here with you again.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to what you can share with our listeners. Thank you. Kristy-Lee is a nationally recognised HR expert with over 20 years' experience in HR and recruitment. She's worked with thousands of business owners to build stronger teams, stay compliant, and implement people systems that actually work. She's also a podcast host, mum, and beach lover. Kristy-Lee, can you break down what these changes are and what practice owners need to be thinking about right now?
Absolutely, I'd love to. The changes that we're seeing hopefully happening in the future, and hopefully these are not yet confirmed, I might just unpack for you where we're at with the process. Previously, in 2024, the Fair Work Commission identified that they were going to undergo a process of reviewing a number of modern awards, one of which is the Health Professionals and Support Services Award, around the issue of gender undervaluation. This was part of a broader remit that the government was looking at in terms of the gender pay gap, and they identified 5 key modern awards which they felt could represent a gender pay gap due to the fact that many of the classifications in those awards are dominated by female employees across those industries. The Health Professionals and Support Services Award, of course, we know is a very broad award, and they identified that as one of the 5 awards that they were going to review to identify whether, in fact, there was a gender undervaluation issue at play. That's the background in terms of why this award was being looked at specifically. And in April 2025, the Fair Work Commission handed down the results of their investigation and identified across all 5 modern awards that they looked at that gender undervaluation was an issue, in fact, in these awards. When it comes to the Health Professionals and Support Services Award, they made what they called draft determinations. That is basically Fair Work legal speak for suggested changes to the award. So it's important to note that these changes are not yet in place and in fact might not happen, but they are looking very seriously at making 2 significant changes to the Health Professionals and Support Services Award. One of those changes is around the support services classification structure, which is where dental assistants currently sit in that classification structure. And there are 2 elements that they were specifically looking at. One was pathology collectors and the other is dental assistants. Now, the second key change that they are looking at in this award is making some significant changes to the classification structure for health professionals, which is another area that may impact some practices, particularly around more qualified employees in your practices. And we don't yet know exactly how that is going to look. So let's start with the dental assistants that are covered under the support services classification structure. As I mentioned, purely a proposal at this point, not yet law, may not become law, but I think in all likelihood, based on what we know Fair Work have been making decisions about, unless there is significant pushback from industry bodies, employer associations, and other relevant parties, it's fairly likely, in my view, that these changes will progress through. It will mean that dental assistants will be reclassified into different classification structures, which may form part of changes that sort of ripple across the support services classification structure. But importantly, what it will mean is dental assistants will be classified at a higher classification than they currently are. And that will depend on their level of qualification and their time or experience in the role. It's likely that they will go up 1 or 2 classifications from where they currently sit, but the nuances around that are where we may see some changes that are different to what Fair Work has proposed. This is where they are currently in a process of consulting with industry, employer groups, anyone that wants to have an opinion about this finding. And they will then consider all of those. There will be further hearings in the Commission before a final determination is made. So that leaves us in limbo right at the moment in terms of what's happening. But I would say in order to prepare, I would be looking at, in all likelihood, you will need to be paying your dental assistants more in the future if these changes go through, because their classification will become higher. Of course, that's based if you're paying them award rates of pay. If you're paying above award rates of pay, it might be much less of an issue for your practice. There's a lot of unknowns still in these changes, but it is important to be thinking about now if your payroll is already very tight, and we know that staff costs are a huge part of running any business, but certainly any health business, then you might want to be considering efficiencies or different ways of doing things to ensure if this does happen. And look, if I had a crystal ball, I could give you a more specific answer, but I don't. But if it does happen, so you're not caught short. I think the other thing that's important to mention is that if it is approved and it does go through, there will be a phasing in. It won't be the decision's handed down and you've got to change everything next week. We will definitely see a gradual phase in of these changes. And generally, when they're phasing in changes, it's at least 12 months that the phasing happens over. If it's a very significant change, it will be a longer phase-in process. So there will be time once a final determination is made to implement. It won't be an overnight change that you need to make. I think whenever there is potential change on the horizon, it's always better to be prepared and to be thinking about it rather than sticking our heads in the sand.
Absolutely. I just want to timestamp this because this isn't coming out until later this year, maybe early next year, but we're at the end of August 2024. Recorded this.
Yes.
Kristy-Lee, when I was speaking to you earlier, you mentioned the levels with the classifications is going to be on time and experience and perhaps qualifications as well.
Yes.
Then we were talking about unqualified people being at a certain classification. This is what they were looking at, but then a qualified person being more, and it was sort of worthwhile maybe getting a qualified person because what you were having to pay an unqualified, there wasn't a big gap. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the proposed changes are that someone new coming into the industry might start at a very low level, a level 1, for example, but would very quickly, after only a few months' experience, be skyrocketed up to a level 2, 3 kind of level. They're sort of saying 1, 5, 6, and 7 are the classifications they're looking at. And if that is the case, a level 5, if you're going to be paying someone qualified at that level anyway, you may be better investing in a qualified person. Now, these are the nuances that may change, that may, after consultation, there might be an argument to say, well, if they're not qualified, that's a significant jump, and maybe they will change their draft determination. What Fair Work have done in this review is they have looked at other industries where similar skill sets are required. Are people like dental assistants being paid comparatively? And the determination is no, they're being underpaid by comparison to other industries with similar skill sets. And that's why this adjustment is being recommended.
I think I do agree. When you used to look at what a dental assistant was paid and you look at what somebody in retail was paid, it's very difficult because you do have a high ratio of staff for your income coming in. Obviously, your income is coming in through your patients. And then you have to look at that. When you're saying you look at efficiencies, I think that that's really important. This particular series is on sustainability. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because we need to be forward thinking, because our team is our highest cost in any practice.
Yes.
It is your biggest asset. It can be your biggest pain as well. When you're paying for someone that's got qualification, they've got time and experience, they might not necessarily be a good fit. You might be paying a very high amount for someone who might not be as good as well. There's all of these other issues that you need to be thinking about. But overall, what do you feel the percentage impact would be for wages if this does come in?
Oh, look, it's a very good question. It's hard to put a number on the percentage impact, but it will increase, there's no doubt. And it will depend on your structure of your practice currently as to how impacted you will be. If you're currently employing a lot of dental assistants at the lowest possible classification now, this could have a significant impact. Where if you're currently employing experienced, qualified, highly paid dental assistants now, you'll be much less impacted. So the impact will vary depending on your current structure. But what you said about sustainability is absolutely, this is what you want to be thinking about. How can you create efficiencies so that you're relying on staff that are absolutely essential to your operation? Where could you be using things like technology or other tools to reduce the staffing overheads that are not person-centric or that are not critical for a person to be doing? Interestingly, there's been a lot of productivity reports come out recently. You may have seen some of them. Australia is really lagging behind in productivity. One of the key problems is we've been very slow with the uptake of technology like AI. So that's part of this conversation. Absolutely. How else do we do things?
Exactly. That's just it with dentists. I think they're very evidence-based, they're very conservative, and they like to see how it goes on. They're not generally early adopters of things, but there is a lot of technologies, particularly around stock. I see in practices that takes a lot of team time, and there are stock processes that you can actually use. Steri takes a long time, and now with the new Australian standard that came out with batching and putting everything through the autoclave and actually recording everything, there's fantastic efficiencies with that have been around for a long time. You want to be having your team, as you said, focusing on that patient-centric, that patient experience, building that trust, understanding your patients. So you can take them away by using technologies, and your practice management system, they're enhancing them all the time with automations and not having to follow up. There's other things out there with social media now that that can create it for you. You still need to check it, but it's just saving time in those areas as well, asking for reviews. There's so much around for dentists and dental owners to do. I think sometimes they'll go, how much does it cost? And they're told and they think, oh, that's a lot. If you look at the hourly rate of what you're paying your assistant, how many hours they're spending a day, multiply that by year after year, an initial investment of a small amount, $4,000 or $5,000, it pays itself off in months, and you've got it ongoing. Now, the health professionals, so you're talking about the hygienists there?
Yeah, so potentially with the health professionals broadly, we speak about it broadly because they haven't specifically named particular occupations, but they will be looking to revamp the health professionals classification. For some particular professions, it could be a significant increase. Physios we're looking at, OTs we're looking at being potentially a very significant increase. Now, I will say the Commission has separated out their decision making. So they're going to make a decision about the support services changes first. They're going to look at that issue first, and then they're going to turn to the health professionals because, understandably, there has been a lot of concern raised industry-wide about the impact this would have on health professionals or businesses that employ health professionals, because some of the increases were in the sort of 16-17% increase that were being tabled by the reclassification of some of the health professionals. So it has raised concerns. Then we'll see a decision about the support services, I would say, probably Q4 of 2025. I am doubtful that we'll see a decision on the health professionals in 2025. I think that is going to take a lot longer, and there's going to be a lot more consultation and different hearings just because of the gravity of the changes they're recommending. So they have initially said we're going to separate the issues in the Health Professionals and Support Services Award, which I think was smart. Otherwise, it could get caught up for a long time. And they're going to deal with the support services reclassification issues first, which, as I said, I think we'll have a decision Q4 2025 on that one. And they'll turn to look at the health professionals reclassification. If the proposal goes through, then there will be a significant number of changes across all health professionals in terms of pay rates and pay scales. There will be a significant bump in anyone covered in that health professionals classification. But due to the volume of concern market-wide, I'm not as convinced that those draft determinations will go through in the form that they've been proposed, because the changes are so significant. I wouldn't be surprised to see those change before any changes are confirmed. This is just my intuition based on the market, that draft determination about the health professionals reclassification and the significant change there may not pass in its current format, and there may be variations made upon consultation with all of the relevant parties. Very early days in that process at this point in time. And remembering they're looking at 4 other awards at the same time. This is just one of the things they're looking at. Do I think we'll see change? Yes. Do I think it will be to the extent that they have proposed? I find that unlikely given the market. And remembering that a lot of people caught up in that space are NDIS providers, and there's a whole range of issues that go in that space as well. I think that's a much longer play, but it would see anyone that is currently covered in those health professionals classifications reclassified, and broadly speaking, pays would be significantly increased. And if they do that, that will be more likely a several-year phase-in process.
So, Kristy-Lee, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to cover to share with our listeners, please?
Look, I just think this is something to be aware of. I don't think it's cause for panic or alarm, so I don't want anyone to be overwhelmed. Michelle will bring you the latest as soon as we know what that is, of course. But just being aware that potential changes are on the horizon is always good. This is a great time to look at your efficiencies, look at your productivity, look at lost time, and potentially make some changes so that you're set if these changes do come into place.
I think a good way of finding out where your inefficiencies are is asking your team, where do you spend a lot of your time, just to see if you can help them to get it better. I think that owners will be really surprised at how the amount of time that people take. That's great, Kristy-Lee. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you know. Your expertise is just amazing. So thank you so much. For more information about Kristy-Lee and People Powered Business, please see our show notes. Thank you so much again, Kristy-Lee. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. Appreciate it.
In our next episode, we'll shift gears slightly and explore how legal and governance structures can impact your long-term sustainability. I'll be joined by David McMullen, an experienced commercial lawyer who works closely with health professionals, including dental and orthodontic practices. We'll unpack what you need to get right from the start to avoid problems down the track. Thanks for tuning in to Dental Success Beyond Chairside. See you next time.